Hello chess friends, this is Zachary Vekadal, chess master and chess coach here at Poder Academy, coming at you with number 10, video lesson number 10 in our series of 12 for becoming a tournament chess player. We've gone through lots and lots of stuff. I'm not going to recap it today, I'm going to get right into it. We've got a good lesson here, working on planning in chess. I love to give this lesson. It's a little more advanced than a lot of the lessons we give. But the point really is, I think a big point here is that we see what more advanced players are looking at. And we can try to be like them. In chess, we're always trying to emulate, what better players do. And this gives us kind of a look into what it would take to be a better player and what we're trying to do. So if you get a little lost and a little confused, don't feel too bad. I'm going to go real slow. And I want you just to kind of see or have an appreciation for, what players are looking for. And this is just a small one. It's unbelievable how many chess moves ahead really good players look and how much of the chess game really isn't played. They say, 99% of the chess game isn't played. It's just thought out and the best moves are found by looking ahead. But it's not played. All the variations are considered, but only the best ones are actually played. So we're looking at a game here in an opening called the Perk. And this is we're going to look at kind of an opening trap that we can see. And we're going to start off in this Perk position right here where black makes a common mistake. And so the mistake is, in this position, let me make sure I get this right. In this position, the bishop comes here, and this is kind of the main move. But then after this move, black should move his knight to f6, but he actually plays knight d7. And this turned out to be a mistake, and it's funny that we've seen some examples so far of how even one small mistake by a good chess player can be taken advantage of and can be turned into a win. And that's what we're going to see here. It's white's move, and what I want to take you through is let's pretend we're a high-rated tournament, high-level, high-rated tournament player trying to win this chess game. Our opponent plays knight d7. We have to consider all of the options. We have to look as far ahead as we can. And most of it we've got to do without actually making any moves on the chessboard, but just seeing it in our heads. And so I like to use our three-step rule that we learned earlier, where we watch our opponent's last move. We always have a plan, and we always double-check our moves. So here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up with candidate moves. Candidate moves are the start, where we say, okay, here's some moves that look good. And what beginners will do is they'll find the first move that looks good and bam, they play it. That's it. They play that move. What more advanced players do is they pick 2, 3, 4 good moves. They're their candidate moves. And then after analyzing all of them carefully, evaluating each one and deciding how good it is for them, they then choose out of those candidate moves which move they want to make. And that's going to help them be a better chess player. In this chess position, I want to evaluate 3 moves. And the first 3 moves are going to be, more aggressive moves. We want to start by looking at the aggressive attacking moves. And then, if we can't find anything aggressive here, we can always play kingside castle, get safe. We can always play knight c3, develop a piece. But we've got to start by looking at those home run moves and those attacking moves first. We're always checking out. One thing to always look for in chess is our checks and our captures. Whenever we're looking at checks and captures on the board, you never know when one of those is going to pan out and be an unbelievably good move. So we should always check. So the first move we're going to check out, or one of our candidate moves, is going to be bishop takes pawn check. Now you can see the king's going to take us, so that's a sacrifice. We've got to make sure we calculate everything before we make that move. The second move we're going to check out is knight g5. That's another nice move. It's another attacking move where we're attacking f7. There's some ways for our opponent to try to stop it, so we're going to look at that. And the third move we're going to check out is pawn e5. So let's look in our head at pawn e5 here. This pawn moves up to e5. Now when we play pawn to e5 here, let's just consider this move. We've got to see what our opponent's going to do. Now let me show you an example of some bad analysis, but some analysis nonetheless. So if we play pawn e5, let's pretend, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the moves, and I need you to do your best job of visualizing what's going to happen without making any moves in the chessboard. And undoubtedly, when I'm doing this in a class, the kids raise their hand and say, well, can we make the moves, please? And I say, no, because the whole point is we have to try to see what's going to happen without seeing the moves. If we're looking at the moves, it defeats the purpose. So the first move is e5. Then we have pawn takes, okay? Hopefully you can see that position in your head. We're looking ahead in the chess game, but we're trying to see that position still. We're going to look even farther ahead. Pawn up, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes. Okay, lots just happened. Pieces traded off. The position is different than it is now by far. And I want to see, pause the tape if you need to and really try to see that position. There's a really good move in this position for white. In fact, this move is basically going to win the game. Okay, so first, if you did pause the tape and you checked it out, I want to see if you could tell in your mind that after pawn up, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes, that actually this whole lane is open. And that, in fact, if we can play bishop takes pawn check, the king has to take our bishop, and then we can play queen takes queen and actually win the queen. How cool is that? Yeah, it's actually a deflection. When we play bishop takes pawn, the king has to take our bishop or move over, and then we take the queen for free. Now, you might want to set that up on a chessboard and test it out for yourself. Because of the lack of time, I'm not going to go through all the moves there. I'm actually going to leave this position up for a lot of the time. But maybe you can see that all those moves pan out. Well, that could be something where in our heads we say, okay, all those moves pan out. We see this brilliant move 5 moves down the road, bishop takes pawn, after all those moves happen, is great, and we win the queen. Let's play the move. But after we find a variation that works for our side, we're white, we see that this variation works, we actually shouldn't play the move right away. What we should do is we should go back through and see if there's any way black can play better moves. And as we look through this, we see there's actually a lot of ways black can improve. But after pawn up, pawn takes, knight takes, we should see in that position, there's no reason that this bishop has to take this knight. In fact, the queen can just take this queen with check first. Then when the king takes, we can take the knight after. Now, black's just up a pawn and white has no combination. And so you can see how, at first, we found a really good move all the way down the road. And we wanted to play that move. But we had to go back and say, what's my opponent's best move? And to be a good chess player, you always have to find your opponent's best move. If you find your opponent's second best move, and then they make the first best move, you're going to always be in trouble spot. So you have to look ahead, and you can't get caught in that trap of, I hope my opponent makes a mistake. You've got to always say, I'm planning my opponent to make the best move. If he makes the second best move, so be it. He's going to be in a worse position. So now we move on. We basically what we do is we cross that move out in our analysis. We have 3 candidate moves right now. We say, boom, e5, cross it out, we're not going to play that move. And we keep moving forward. We know that if none of our candidate moves work out, we're just going to castle our king or play knight c3. So then next what we do is we say, what's our next move? It's knight g5. Okay? So we say, okay, in our heads, we're going to play knight g5, picture that position. But we have to say to ourselves, okay, what's going to happen next? What is my opponent going to do next to try to stop me? Because when we play knight g5, we're threatening to take there on f7 and fork the rook and the queen. And that fork is going to be a really dangerous fork. It's going to be great for us. And it's something we've showed before that fork in different lessons before in this series. And black has to stop it. So let's look at different ways black can stop it. I want to start with after knight g5, maybe a not so good move for black, knight h6. Now that is a good move in the way that this knight on h6 now can defend f7. Okay, so now we're defending f7. So if we just take on f7 and take, and bishop takes and king takes, we'll have traded 2 minor pieces, a knight and bishop, for a knight and a pawn. I don't know if you can see that position. Try to see in your head. Knight g5, knight h6, knight takes, bishop takes, king takes. Okay, then you got to count all the material and you have to say in your head, okay, that's no good for white. So you got to say to yourself, if I play knight g5 and he plays knight h6, can I even take there? And the answer is no, you don't want to play that move. So instead though, after knight g5 and knight h6, I want you to pause the video and see if you can come up with white's brilliant move. He has another great move here that's hard to find. Okay, so hopefully you paused it and found the move. The move is actually bishop takes pawn check. Now you say to yourself, it doesn't make any difference, the knight's going to take the bishop. But then, we don't actually play knight takes knight, we play knight to e6. And if you can see that position in your head, if you can visualize that position, you can see that this knight is here, our knight is on this square, and because there's a knight here, not a pawn here anymore, our knight is safe on the square, and this queen is still right here, and if you can see, the queen's actually trapped. So now we're actually going to win that queen. There's no way for black to say that next move we play knight takes d8 and we win the queen. So kind of cool there. You know, we had to see 3 or 4 moves ahead. We had to see that the position changed. And then we had to see that the queen is actually trapped up there. Lots to look at and to visualize. Okay, but after knight g5, our opponent by no means has to play knight h6. He could also play pawn e6 and try to stop us. Okay, so then we have to look at that position. There's actually another good move for white in that position. I want you to pause it, see if you can set it up on your board, think about it, try to visualize the position. See, after knight g5, knight h6, knight g5, pawn e6 this time, knight g5, pawn e6, what's white's great move? Okay, well hopefully you found it. The correct move is bishop takes pawn. Again, we have to give away material. So many times in chess, the first move of a combination looking ahead does not seem smart. And it's only after, or only if, we can see farther ahead to see that it's actually going to be smart farther ahead. The thing is, after pawn takes, we play knight takes. Now, we're attacking the queen there, we're also attacking this bishop. So black is going to want to play queen e7 and guard his bishop. But then we play knight takes pawn, forking the rook and the king. And I know some of you don't have chessboard set up, so I'm going to show you this one. Knight g5, pawn e6. Then the thing is, we're going to play bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, giving away a bishop for 2 pawns. Now we're attacking the queen and the bishop, so he's got to go here to defend the queen and the bishop. And then we can actually take here, and now our knight is forking the king and the rook. Hopefully you saw this position all the way back from the beginning. And so you can see, wow, this is fantastic. And so many people, even really good players, would see this stuff. And they would say, oh my goodness, I've got to play knight g5. Play that move right away. It works. Everything's great. There's nothing my opponent can do to stop me. But if you want to play the best move on a chessboard, you've got to get out of that thinking. You have to say to yourself, okay, knight g5 looks like an excellent move. In all the variations I've seen, it gives me a great advantage. e5 is a bad move. We cross that out. But still, we're going to look at our last move in our combination to see if there's any chance it's better. So we're still going to check out bishop takes pawn, even though we like the move knight g5. Because Kasparov's famous quote in chess is, if you see a good move, look for a better one. We won't stop because we found a good move. We will look for the best move. And that's what you got to do to keep improving and to keep becoming a better player. So our last candidate move was bishop takes pawn. It was a sacrifice as well. Now the king can take our bishop. And then what we're actually going to do, see if you can find the move here, we're actually going to play knight g5 check. Okay? Now we've got to look at all of our options. Look at that position in your head. Visualize again. Bishop takes, king takes, knight check. There's actually 3 moves the black king can make. King here, king here, king here. We have to see all of those moves, and we have to have everything worked out. It's not a guessing game, guys. We're not guessing. This move looks good, I hope it all works out, maybe there'll be a checkmate in the future. We're calculating carefully, we're thinking it all the way through, and we're coming up with an answer that's hopefully exact. Now some positions are so complicated it can't be exact. There's just no way you can look at all the combinations. But not very many, and not as many as people think. You can figure these things out. You can analyze and calculate enough to come very close to the correct answer in almost every position. And I think what most people do is they give up well before they ever get to that point. They aren't willing to put in the hard work, they don't think it's possible to solve the equations, and they don't actually try. If you actually just calculate carefully, you can figure out a lot of these positions. So, especially after you've memorized some of the patterns we've gone over, and you've seen the patterns again and again, it makes it so much easier. Okay, so bishop takes, king takes, knight check. Let's look at the first move. What if he just plays king back? He just moves his king back and gets safe. Well, you might remember this from before. We can actually play knight e6. This pawn's gone because the king took and came back. The knight's on e6 trapping the queen, we win the queen. Okay, let's say bishop takes, knight check, and he just moves his king straight back. Pause the video, see if you can solve this one. Well, the correct answer here is knight e6 check, forking the king and the queen. A nice little knight fork like we worked on last practice. There, we're just going to win the queen again. All right, but we've got to look at every move. This is exact calculation. Bishop takes, knight check, king up. Okay, pause the video again. Let's say the king goes up. Is there anything we can do there? Well, actually, yes. If you found queen f3, checkmate on the spot, you'll see that that is the best move by far. And now we're doing great. And now we've actually seen, okay, e5 bad move, we crossed it out. Knight g5 good move, but after calculating knight g5 and bishop takes f7, we liked bishop takes f7 the best. We've analyzed everything thorough enough. We're ready to make our move on the chessboard. And people ask me in chess and always say, oh my gosh, Zach, you played a 4-hour chess game. That seems like so long. And I think to myself, not really. I mean, that 4-hour chess game, and a good chess, a good hard fight between somebody, it's probably 60 moves for both sides. That's 120 moves. That's only 2 minutes per move. Okay, that seems like a lot per move maybe, but I mean, if you start thinking about every move, calculating 3 moves, going through all of the calculations, figuring out which one you like better between those 3 moves, making sure you're accurate on every single variation, and then coming up with a move. I mean, how long is that going to take you? I mean, I'd say in this position, even a good chess player, it's going to take him 2 or 3 minutes just to figure this out. This is in the opening. Think about how we get more and more complicated and we get to our end games. Those are the most complicated, right? The most interesting, where we have to think the farthest ahead at least, even if they're not the most complicated. I mean, 4-hour chess games, nothing. I play lots of games that are 4 hours. Some of them are 6 hours, so that's kind of the longest ones are 6 hours. That's when you really have a tough fight. And you have to calculate everything. It can't be a guess. So the king takes the bishop, we play knight check, and we checked every variation. Let's check it now, actually moving the pieces. If the king goes here, the knight traps the queen. If the king comes back, we play knight check, we fork the king and queen. And if in this position the king comes up, maybe you found queen f3, checkmate. Nowhere for the king to go, the bishop defends the knight. And we've won a beautiful game on just one small mistake of our opponent. The only thing our opponent did wrong was in this position in the opening, he actually played the wrong move order. He was supposed to play knight f6 here, but he actually played knight d7. And we considered, we took our time. We didn't say, oh, it's the opening, we can play fast because nothing ever happens in the opening. We just need to castle and get our knights and bishops out. We took it seriously. We looked for the combination, and we looked at the forcing moves, which are our checks and captures, and we went through everything. And you'd be surprised how many great combinations are missed all the time by amateurs, just because they're blitzing through the opening, because they think there's never anything exciting that happens in the opening. And then, you just kind of get stuck in this phase in chess, where instead of staying creative and keep thinking of all of the options, you just get stuck in a box. And you can't do that. You got to keep your creative juices flowing. You got to always analyze everything. The more you can work hard at the chessboard, the more you're going to win. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people think chess is for people that are just really smart or just math brain or something like that. But I see students, and it's the students that work hard that win. They end up passing up students much smarter than them because they continue to practice, they continue to memorize patterns, and they're willing to work harder at the boards. So many students, even ones that are really smart, they're not willing to work hard enough at the board to really get chess. And I think hard work is really what's going to earn you, your points in chess. So many games are won on one little mistake. So is it really that person was smarter, or was it that, at the moment of truth, they weren't thinking as much as they should, or they weren't taking their time? And so, doing those kind of practical things are what really is going to help you in chess. And we're going to come up with a lesson coming up next where we really talk about the practical things. Maybe it's resting the night before a tournament. Maybe it's, making sure you don't have distractions at a tournament. I know students that wear earplugs and do really well. Or maybe it's just going through our thinking process where we look at our move first, we make a plan, we look at our opponent's move. Just little practical things. So much of chess is practical and not just playing the moves on the board. So hopefully you enjoyed this lesson. Hopefully you get a little insight into what good players do every single move and what they're looking for every move. This is a cool example of kind of an aggressive attacking position. Positions like this won't happen every time, but you'll be surprised how often they happen, and maybe you'll be able to use this as one example to being able to analyze a position in a way that a tournament player would. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.